Hi, welcome to Just Common Sense. My name's Brian Harrison, and I got Jerry on the line tonight again. Say hi, Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
And there he goes again. We do this all the time. He does get confused sometimes. He thinks I'm Jerry once in a while, I guess. Anyway, we're going to talk about a variety of things tonight. We are going to talk about what's going on out there. We're going to talk about the Second Amendment. We're going to talk about Joe Biden. We're going to talk about the stupid, foolish stuff he said about a 9mm pistol. We're going to talk about there was a shooting in Tulsa, Oklahoma again. I think it was today. 5 people are dead, including the gunman. We're going to talk about soft spots, hard spots, meaning that hospitals, schools, churches are known as soft spots. That's why these criminals are going there. We've already spoken about, and we're going to do it again. We're going to talk about people with mental illnesses. We're going to talk about what I call mental awareness for parents to understand what's going on out there. So we're going to try to do this within a half an hour. Sometimes we go over. We'll see how we do this. All right. So anyway, I want to go into one thing. I'm going to play a segment to start this whole thing off from Ronald Reagan, and I'm going to let it play for a minute. I want you guys to listen to this. It definitely is about our Constitution. Here we go.
The Constitution does not say that government shall decree the right to keep and bear arms. The Constitution says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Okay. Anyway, it's trying to play over again. But you heard that right from Ronald Reagan talking about the Constitution, about bearing arms. Okay? That's important. Okay? Because we're going to be talking about a couple other things as well with that tonight. And going through my stuff here because I want to play some other segments in a minute here. And we'll talk about that. But, Jerry, what have you got to say? I know you wanted to get into this a little bit.
Well, one thing about Ronald Reagan is he is a firm believer in the Second Amendment. And after he was shot, he was carrying himself. And his Secret Service team, wasn't sure they liked the fact that he was carrying, but he said, you know what? After he was shot, he was never going to let that happen again. So Ronald Reagan concealed himself.
And Ronald Reagan, that segment that I just played, that was right after his shooting, after he was a little bit better, obviously. It was probably a couple months after that he said that. He was talking about that. Anyway, go on, Jerry.
No, just, he just believed in the Second Amendment. And, the problem is too many people want to try and, interpret the Constitution the way that they feel that, their belief of the Constitution, when in reality, all they need to do is read it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. Look, it's right here. Very thin book. Very easy. Very understandable. A little bit, some parts are a little bit, you got to read up on it, but that's all. Not much, but it's pretty understandable. And Jerry and I do have different opinions on some things. We've talked about it. So, and that's fine. We can all have different opinions, but as long as we know this is something we got to go by. We really do. And people are out there saying, well, it was written many years ago by guys that don't know what these guns are. We're talking about, ARs and AR-15s, things like that. We're talking about, they didn't know about these guns. Now, I got to say it. I'm going to say this. I heard the other day, you get these people out there talking that, talking about ARs. Oh, they're guns used in war. Let me tell you something. If those guns were used in war, we would lose. Those are not the guns that the military carries at all. Whole different gun. Jerry, you know that. You can explain that.
Yep. But yeah, they're also, the whole point of the Constitution, or not the Constitution, but the Second Amendment was to have weapons to stand up against the government if the government oversteps its boundaries. And so even though, the AR is not a fully automatic weapon like a lot of the military weapons are, you do need to have the whole point of the Second Amendment is to have something to stand against your government if your government oversteps its boundaries.
Yeah, and it's
not about hunting for deer. It's not about, protecting your house or anything. Those are, secondary benefits, but that's not what it was written about.
Right. And you want to really break down an AR, I mean, as far as it's not as, I mean, it's got some power, but the size of the bullet itself is not very large. There are other guns out there much more powerful than that everybody could get their hands on. And I'm going to say it, I think a lot of these young, stupid kids, which we'll talk about that, look at these things and they go, oh, they're cool looking. And that's why they buy them. And that's not the reason to buy a gun. The reason to buy a gun is to protect your family, mainly, is what I say. And then, of course, Jerry does talk about the Second Amendment. That's fine. What's in the Constitution as well. And we're going to hear from Mark Robertson tonight. I'm going to actually play a segment from him in a little bit, which Governor Cooper went after him like yesterday for saying this. But Governor Cooper does not realize how frustrated people are. He doesn't care how frustrated people are. And I know why, Mark said this, because when he's saying this, he's frustrated. And a lot of the people are frustrated because right now, people that obviously are going by the Constitution of the United States are being attacked by the radicals. They have no clue. They want to change this the whole country. They want to make it into a one world country. Well, guess what? If it were a one world country, who's going to, or one world, we'll say, I don't want to say one world country. I guess they do want to turn it that way, but China, if they had it their way, they'd probably rule the world. What do you think, Jerry?
No,
the government.
That's exactly it. There's a lot of people out there that, basically, they want this utopian, future where, we'll just all live together and we'll just have one country and we'll just all, be under one government. I mean, and it just doesn't work that way. And it's against human nature. Human nature won't let that happen. And, human nature is that there's always going to be people that have differences of opinion, and there's always going to be some people that want to do bad things, and you're not going to stop bad people, overall. You can do your best to minimize the damage you're going to do, but there are always going to be bad people.
Yeah. Well, let's look at what Canada just did, the Prime Minister of Canada. I tell you what, I'm watching that country right now because I know a lot of people that live in that country who are furious about this right now. He's right now saying that you can't buy, sell guns or anything else and pretty much carry guns in Canada. You can't. He did this upon himself and maybe a few people with him, but again, you can't do that. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be a civil war up there if that continues. That guy's been a joke for them the whole time. Matter of fact, one of my best friends, which is like a brother to me, I'll tell you what, he does not like that guy. I'm not going to mention his name, but he does not like that guy. And he said a lot of people don't. They really don't. And this guy went for trying to make, obviously, the vaccine mandatory for everybody. And that we see how that went. And that's a whole nother mess up there. So we'll need to keep an eye out what goes on with that. But where I go with this is my purpose of carrying a gun. I wish we didn't have to carry guns, guys. Honestly, I wish the whole world we didn't have to carry guns and everybody was happy and, going through the tulips and all that and being happy. But that's not the fact, because you got bad people out there. And these bad people are not going to turn in their guns. Jerry, I just heard about something over in Durham County that they were trying to get ARs and to buy out your ARs. I think it was $200. Somebody posted, well, if you're going to go ahead and sell Durham County your ARs, I'll buy them for, $300. Well, what do you think people are going to do then? It's ridiculous. And it just frustrates me. And it's not just about ARs. Let's break this down, too. You want to talk about other guns right now? Let's talk about a shotgun, semi-automatic shotgun out there. You know how much more powerful in many ways that would be for a close-up shooting? It's very scary and dangerous if you look at it like that. But again, people are out there. They do it for home defense. I have a shotgun in case somebody breaks in my house. Obviously, that's going to sit there. But also, people use it for hunting, many things. Target practice. I love to go out and shoot. Jerry loves to go out and shoot. We're not crazy in the head. But there are people out there like that. And that's why I brought up mental awareness. That's a huge thing. It's not about guns. It's about mental awareness. What's going on? Why parents aren't watching their children. That's one piece of the puzzle. Variety of things. We could talk about schools as well. We could talk about what's going on with these soft spots. They need to be hard spots. They really do. Jerry and I've had different talks about this. I know I've heard something that sounded kind of nice, but Jerry had another point about it, about school doors. When something happens, they lock. But again, maybe each classroom locks or something. But the expense on that would be probably pretty well up there. But again, I guess we don't have a problem spending, was it $42 million? Or how much was it, Jerry? Do you remember, to Ukraine? How much was that?
Oh,
billions,
tens of billions of dollars.
Billions. I'm sorry, 42 billion.
Oh, we left 80 billion military equipment to the Taliban.
Oh, yeah, and that's where I was going to go. I'm glad you said that because, well, here we go. We just give them the weapons. That's another story Joe Biden did. My gosh. And this guy can't even talk. He talks about a 9mm pistol. Let me tell you something about 9mm pistol. It's what most people get to defend their home. That's the most sold gun out there for people to defend their home, carry when they have a legal concealed license. These criminals are not going to say, okay, well, I'm going to hand you my gun. Believe it or not, Joe Biden has no clue what he's talking about when it comes to a 9mm. Zero. This guy, I don't even know where he gets this information from, but he's 100% wrong. Man's probably never even shot a gun in his life. I doubt if he's even shot a shotgun or rifle like he said in the past. So, but go on, Jerry. I know you want to talk about this some.
I was in total disbelief the other day when I saw him make his comment about 9mm and how it's a high power gun that blows the lungs out of people and everything like that. And right. I just got to tell you that, anybody that actually listens to that guy or votes for that guy is a moron because, there's no way that you can say, oh, this is the most qualified person to lead our country. And so therefore, anybody that voted for him didn't vote for him because of his qualifications. And he is proving that in the stuff that he says. He has no idea what he's talking about with a 9mm. He has no idea what he's talking about even with other firearms. And he even advocated something a few years ago that was completely unsafe.
Right.
So if you heard a burglar, you should just go out and shoot into the dark to scare the burglar. And, what kind of idiot goes out and shoots at something that you can't even see and don't even know what it is? Oh, what if that was your neighbor's kid that was out there? What if that was your neighbor's dog that was out there? It's like, so to just go out and say, this guy Biden is an absolute moron, and he has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to firearms.
Yeah, and the other thing is, first of all, Biden ruined it right there because you don't go out and shoot somebody. They've got to be in your house coming at you and attacking you. That's a different story. If they're outside running away, don't shoot
into the dark so that you can scare them away. But the thing is,
stupid.
If you shoot into the dark, how do you know if you shot them or someone else or whatever? It's like, because if you're shooting into the dark, you don't even know what you're shooting at, which is completely irresponsible.
Sure. And then the other thing is, all of a sudden you go out there, you shoot somebody or shoot at somebody in dark, not knowing where they are. Well, guess what? You're standing at your house, probably with lights on in the background, and all of a sudden that person may go, well, you shoot at me, now I have a gun and I'm going to shoot back at you. And mine's illegal, they're going to say, because I don't believe in the law. And guess what? The homeowner gets shot. And There you go right there. Very bright, Joe. Very bright on this one. Many people would think, if you think about this, it's about knowing guns, knowing safety. We've talked about this. I say that when you get a gun, that you should go through some classes for safety. Jerry and I've had a few debates. Jerry believes that too, that it's a good thing to go through classes. Jerry had a point. I had to think about it and look at a few things. He was talking about, what was it, the 10th Amendment, I believe?
Yep,
that's what I was, So go ahead, Jerry. Go ahead in our little debate here.
The thing is, I think training is important. I think it's smart, but
we agree on that.
Don't believe in it being mandatory because, it's like the thing is the federal law right now is the Constitution.
Right.
And in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights added to the Constitution, the Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So if you want to have classes and go to voluntary classes, that's fine. But the federal government making a law to make mandatory classes is a violation of the 10th Amendment, which says anything not covered in the Constitution falls to the state to decide. So the federal government making that a law would be a violation of the 10th Amendment.
And that's where I was going to go with you on that. I was going to talk to you about this, and we'll talk right here. What about if the state did it?
Well, if the state did it, again, it's a violation of the Second Amendment at that point, because requiring, certain classes, because then it's a matter of, okay, well, who decides what's in this class? And, and if you're going to take this, class all of a sudden, oh, well, I'm only buying a shotgun. So why do I have to sit through a class on handguns and how handguns work? Or I'm only buying a hunting rifle. Why should I sit through a class that talks about shotguns? And, so, do I think that training is important? Absolutely. Do I think going to classes would be an intelligent thing to do? Absolutely. Should it be mandatory by law? No.
Yeah. So this is where Jerry and I have a little bit. And I understand where you're coming from, Jerry. I get it. And yet, suppose we have an 18-year-old guy could go in there, buy a rifle. Just buy a rifle legally. We're going to talk about age in a minute. All of a sudden, he goes out there and has no knowledge, anything. No one's ever taught him, showed him anything. I'm buying a rifle. Doesn't know how to operate it. Watches movies, loads it, bang. Somebody's standing in front of him, shoots somebody without realizing. Got to look at that side, too.
That's not what happened in Texas, Brian.
I'm not talking about Texas. I'm talking about what could happen accidentally. So that's
People
where
have
I'm going
accidents in cars.
I know. And
Should
that's
we have
why
mandatory training on cars before you're allowed to buy one?
We do. That's what we get a driver's license for.
You take a test. You don't have mandatory training.
You do take, but you have mandatory tests to learn how to drive.
Yeah, it's a test. Yeah. And you have a background check for firearms.
Sure. But see, this guy's Jerry and I are great friends. We are. But sometimes we agree and disagree with things. Yep. And that's fine. That's where we go into this. And we, but we're not going to go fighting over it. We're not going to say who's right or wrong. We just basically say, okay, it's something we need to talk about and work on and figure it out. But again, he's got a great point with the Constitution, and it cannot be changed. I agree with him on this.
Well, it can be, but if people want to change it, then they need to go through the rules. They need to have a convention of states, and in the convention of states, come up with either a new amendment or repeal one of the amendments that's out there.
Correct. Well, that's why I started to say amendment, but yeah, there you go.
Right.
But anyway, so again, that's just something that we agree to disagree on sometimes. And, I see his point. So that's why we both still believe, no matter what, at least training would be a good idea for you to go to. Okay, anyway, we were talking about soft spots. All right, we talked about, obviously, schools. What's your opinion, Jerry? I mean, we talked about this the other night. I heard something about, if they had doors on these classrooms, on individual classrooms. I think the expense would be crazy. But for life,
expense would be crazy, and basically what they're doing is they're trying to come up with, these magic wand solutions, which there's no such thing,
right?
And so like, oh well, what if we, put special locks on all the classroom doors, and what if we, turned our schools into fortresses, and
right? That's a little too much.
You know what? There's a simpler solution than that, and that's just hey, what if we actually went back to allowing police officers to be in schools, the very ones you defunded, or what if we allowed the teachers to use their Second Amendment right and carry concealed if they wanted to, and just and people talk about teachers should go through special training. Well, if you get a concealed carry permit, why should you go through any additional special training? I mean, it's if you already have gone through the classes that you have to go through, and you've already done the training to get your concealed carry permit.
Yeah.
And it's like, if a criminal knew that walking into a school that, the teachers were possibly armed, or the principal was possibly armed, or that there was multiple police officers there or something like that, and that they weren't going to be able to do what it was they wanted to do, they wouldn't do it.
Correct.
And so, so basically, if we stop making these places soft targets where nobody's armed, that's why when people attack, they attack schools.
Yeah.
Today in Oklahoma or whatever it was, there was a hospital, and it's like, another place where you're not allowed to carry. And it's like, so, all these people go to places where you're not allowed to carry.
Right.
And, and that's why the casualty rates are so high. And,
right.
Because if somebody walked in, hey, you know what? If somebody walked into a school and within 2 seconds, a teacher pulled a gun and popped them in the head, guess what?
Well,
solution, problem, done.
Yeah. And Jerry and I are both in agreement on this. We talked about this. We talked about it the other night on the podcast, and I think it's a great idea to, obviously, there are teachers out there who would feel comfortable to carry. They need, I feel they need at least go to classes, learn how to train to shoot, because they're going to be protecting people, and they're going to need to know how to do that. And I think Jerry will agree on that part. But again, when we look at this, Jerry and I talked about, you mentioned something the other night about maybe they should wear a pin or badge or something to identify them. And that may not be a bad idea either. That way people could say, hey, we got somebody down here, and, they can run down and take care of things. And you could get retired police officers as well, I guess. But people that are police officers are off duty. Sometimes they want to work and get a little extra money. That may be an option for them. So there is that as well. That's not a bad idea either, I wouldn't think. So these are just ideas we're throwing out there, guys. That's all they are. And, Joe Biden, when they talked to him about this the other day, he doesn't want to hear about this. He doesn't want to hear about anything except getting rid of guns. Did you know that, Jerry? Did you hear about that one?
Yeah, because that's been his agenda for years.
That's exactly right.
The Democrat Party, which another thing that blows my mind is people that vote Democrat and say, oh, but I'm a gun owner. So basically you're voting against your own rights, as a gun owner. That doesn't make sense.
It's true. Very true. That's a good one. Very good one there. My wife and I were talking about this tonight, and we really were, and she had a good valid point. She's sitting here talking about, getting illegal guns. And if they stop these guns out there, she goes, let's compare this. How hard is it to get illegal drugs out there right now? She said, illegal guns, illegal drugs. It's not going to change anything. Look at fentanyl right now. It's crazy. It's going crazy out there. She used that comparison. I thought it was a pretty good idea she had about that, because regardless, if you try to make these guns illegal, all of them, guess what? The criminals are still going to get them no matter what. So that was a good point. What's your thought on that, Jerry?
No, absolutely. I mean, people can manufacture them. They can smuggle them in from other countries. They do. There's just so many things. I mean, if you look at some of your most dangerous places in the world right now, most of them are not. I mean, you look at like Somalia, okay, with all the warlords and the pirates and everything like that. They don't manufacture AK-47s over there. They don't manufacture M16s. They don't, but you know what? All the bad guys have them.
Oh, yeah.
They got them somewhere. And so, as far as guns, people will find a way to get them. And, so since people are going to find a way to get them, the criminals are going to have them. And it's like, if the citizen population does not have the opportunity to have them, then that puts the citizenry at an extreme disadvantage. But it all goes back to the very beginning of our country. The reason the Second Amendment is there is because, the founding fathers had looked at what Britain tried to do in, keeping the colonies under their thumb by seizing their weapons. Yeah. And, had they not had weapons, then the militias wouldn't have existed. And so therefore, if the citizens had not had weapons, then the United States wouldn't even be a country right now.
Yeah, no, and that's true. Very true. And, I want to go ahead and we're going to actually bring up something here. I want to play something our lieutenant governor said the other day, and it's how frustrated he is with everything out there, because I'll tell you what, Jerry knows our lieutenant governor. He's a great guy. And, of course, people looked at him going, oh, my God, he's radical. Guess what? No, he's just expressing himself, and he talks about really the Constitution. Let's go ahead and play that segment. Hold on, Jerry. I'm going to play that.
I've heard a whole lot of people in here talking tonight about this group and that group, and domestic violence, and blacks, these minorities and that minority. What I want to know is, when are you all going to start standing up for the majority? And here's who the majority is. I'm the majority. I'm a law-abiding citizen who's never shot anybody, never committed a serious crime, never committed a felony. I've never done anything like that. But it seems like...
Okay, so he said he's a law-abiding citizen who's never shot anybody. So we're going to continue to play this. I want you to understand when we break this down.
Every time we have one of these shootings, nobody wants to put the blame where it goes, which is at the shooter's feet. You want to put it at my feet.
So right there he said, no one wants to blame the shooter. They want to blame us right away, people that have guns, that are legally carrying guns or have guns legally in their house to protect their family. Let's go on.
You want to turn around and restrict my right, constitutional right that's spelled out in black and white. You want to restrict my right to buy a firearm and protect myself from some of the very people you're talking about in here tonight. It's ridiculous. I don't think Rod Serling could come up with a better script. It does not make any sense. The law-abiding citizens of this community and many communities around this country, we're the first ones taxed and the last ones considered and the first ones punished when things like this happens, because our rights are the ones that are being taken away. That's the reason why I came down here today. Gun show or no gun show, NRA or no NRA. I'm here to stand up for the law-abiding citizens of this community, because I'm going to
So he's standing up for the law-abiding citizens of the community. I'm losing I'm getting like Joe Biden. Blah, blah, blah. Once in a while I do slip, guys, because I use no script. Oh, gosh, Jerry, you can laugh. Go ahead. All right.
I'm laughing.
Okay, I'll go ahead and continue this.
tell you what's going to happen. You can take the guns away from us all you want to. You all write a law, I follow the law, I'll bring my guns down here, I'll turn them in. But here's what's going to happen. The Crips and the Bloods on the other side of town, they're not going to turn their guns in. They're going to hold on to them. And what's going to happen when you have to send the police down there to go take them? The police can barely enforce the law as it is. As what I see, we demonize the police, criminalize and vilify the police, and we make the criminals into victims. And we're talking about restricting guns? How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that when the police department's already hamstrung? You're not going to be able to go down here and take these guns from these criminals. So the criminals are going to hold on to their guns. They're still going to have them. They're still going to break in my house, and they're still going to shoot me with them. And guess who's going to be the one that suffers? It's going to be me. Well, I'm here to tell you tonight, it is not going to happen without a fight. And when I say fight, I don't mean shots fired. I don't mean fists thrown. I mean I'm going to come down here to this city council and raise hell just like these loonies from the left do until you listen to the majority of the people in this city. And I am the majority. The majority of the people in this city are law-abiding, and they follow the law, and they want their constitutional right to be able to bear arms. They want to be able to go to the gun show and buy a hunting rifle or a sport rifle. There are no military-grade weapons sold at the gun show. An AR-15 is not a military-grade weapon. Anybody who would go into combat with an AR-15 is a fool. It's a semi-automatic .22 rifle. You'd be killed in 15 minutes in combat with that thing. So we need to dispel all these myths, and we need to drop all this division that we got going on here. Because the bottom line is, when that Second Amendment was written, whether the framers liked it or not, they wrote it for everybody. And I am everybody. And the law-abiding citizens of this city are everybody. And we want our rights, and we want to keep our rights. And by God, we're going to keep them, come hell or high water.
All right. So he just talked about gun rights and everything else, which you guys need to listen and follow Mark Robinson. He's really knows what he's talking about here. So, Jerry, what's your thought on things? Because you probably heard that video yesterday. I'm sure you did, when Cooper went after him. Cooper went after him because, he's expressing himself. He's talking about if he were told to hand his guns over, he's not going to do it.
He's basically talking about the response if government were to usurp their authority and, basically become a tyrannical government, which is the whole reason the Second Amendment exists.
Right. But he also talks about, when he was talking about that, he said, I'm not going to give up my guns, because if I did, he said the Bloods, the Crips, and all that, they're not going to give up their guns. And if they break in my house, guess what? What am I going to do? Throw paper at them? Here, hold on. Guys, there are many things. There was a stabbing in New York the other day. You're talking about guns. Well, guess what? Guys walking down the street, all of a sudden somebody pulls out a knife and starts stabbing them. What are we going to do? Get rid of knives? Next, what? Screwdrivers, pins, things like that? I mean, that's what we're talking about. People can attack you with anything. We've seen videos out there where you have a police officer begging the person with a knife to stand down, And I mean, giving them so many chances. But even the police officer, when somebody's coming after them with a knife, he or she needs to defend her or himself, even against a knife. And again, they shoot somebody because of that. And all of a sudden, you got the crazy people going, oh, well, they only had a knife and you shot them. Well, guess what? That's a weapon. And they were going after a police officer, someone in law enforcement, or an innocent person just walking down the street who's now dead because they had no clue what was going on because you had some mental case person out there, which is a whole nother story. Anyway, go on, Jerry.
Yeah, no, I agree. But, I mean, the whole thing is, what Robinson's talking about is,
I know,
going back to being able to stand up against a tyrannical government, which is the reason the Second Amendment was written. And, the benefit of being able to protect yourself from, gang members or something like that, that's an ancillary benefit of the Second Amendment.
Right.
But the Second Amendment was written to keep our government in check. And without, citizens who are armed, like I said, the British government would still be a British colony.
Yeah.
And, as far as our governor attacking, Mark Robinson and saying, oh, gosh, it's irresponsible for a member of our government to, talk about, a violent, act against our government. Oh, you mean like North Carolina, one of the original 13 colonies that stood up against England? Oh, yeah, like that, you know, because that's what happened back in the American Revolution. So I guess Roy Cooper thinks that North Carolina should have just capitulated to the British government and that we should not have stood up for ourselves.
Right. But again, this is only pieces of the puzzle, what's going on out there. And the radical left, you're hearing about it all the time. We see what's going on. We've got people out there going, we'll come to your door to door and take your guns and all that. I'm like, no. And again, I want to say it. We do not, obviously, we're not condoning going out there and going after the government and all that. No, not by any means. It's just the Constitution we're talking about.
Not going after the government, but standing up to them if they go step over their boundaries.
Right. And that's what we're talking about in the Constitution. But what I'm saying, Jerry, is no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that at all. But again, I'm just using that as an example what the Constitution is. That's why Jerry wanted to break that down. But I wanted to break the side down of protecting yourself, your family, and possibly others if you're out there and all of a sudden, guess what? Somebody comes after you. If you're out on the street and they're coming at you and you have no choice, guess what? You have to defend yourself. So, and you may have just saved someone else's life.
Yep, absolutely.
Just a thought. Now, again, we're not trying to make this the Wild West. We don't want that at all. We just want to make sure we're law-abiding citizens and we're doing the right thing here.
Actually, Democrat policies are making it more like the Wild West. They're not prosecuting people for rioting. They're not prosecuting people for attacking police officers. They're, all the people that, participated in riots last 2 years. Yeah. BLM and Antifa, they're dropping charges. They're letting them out of jail. They're letting them go. That's the Wild West.
It's true.
When you let people do whatever they want and there's no accountability, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this recently because we were talking about if you go to the sheriff's office downtown, that you still see burn it down. It's faded out, but it's still in the sheriff's office. And again, we talked about Baker. Why didn't you remove it? Why didn't you get that painted over? Why? Why, Baker? Just saying. Jerry knows why.
Yep.
But anyway, we're not to talk about that tonight because that's not what I want to get into because he lost anyway, even though there's going to be a runoff in July. We'll see what happens. But anyway, I am all for Donnie Harrison right now and what he's doing. I'm telling you what, guys, get out there and watch Donnie Harrison. I am meeting up with him in a couple weeks from now, and we'll be talking again. I had a great lunch with him and his wife about many things on Friday. We talked, and it was 2.5 hours. We were sitting there, and I think we were going to continue to go on and on and on. But genuine gentleman, and I'll say it. He really knows what he's doing, and he will definitely protect Wake County and do it the right way. He doesn't need to drive around in a car. I've heard rumors that Baker drives around in a car. He has a driver. He has dark tinted windows where nobody can even see him. Yet, why isn't he just acting like a normal person, just driving a car around? I don't get it. I mean, that's what I hear. Where I know Donnie would be out there just driving his own car and doing his own thing and talking to everybody and talking to everybody out there on the street and doing what he does and defending Wake County. So, anything else on that, Jerry?
Nope, not at the moment.
All right, guys, as always, go to my website, just-markcommonsense.com. Again, just-markcommonsense.com. And I didn't get out here to say everything, to tell you guys the other day about Happy Memorial Day, by the way. I didn't get a chance to do that. I did send some stuff out there on Twitter and stuff, but I didn't have a chance to actually get on video the other day. I had a lot going on, and that's where I was. So, and guys, keep our military obviously in your hearts. Obviously, you know what Memorial Day is, and well, some of you do. Go ahead, Jerry. Tell what Memorial Day is, because Jerry says it better than I do, because he was in the military.
Memorial Day is a remembrance of our war dead that gave their life in the service of our country.
Yes, and you know what? I always do this because Jerry was in the military, and I want to give an applause to our military out there and our fallen military.
Yeah, Memorial Day is for the fallen, not for the guys that are serving now or the veterans.
Right.
That's November.
That's what I said, but I still gave it to ours, too. I still gave it to our military, too, because remember, our military, as you would know, have fought by those fallen, and they were like brothers, so they still lost their brothers right there next to them. That's why I gave them the applause, too. So, as always, guys, just check things out. Go to my website. Definitely scroll down, subscribe to YouTube. Podcast is going crazy, and TikTok, and we go Apple, we go Spotify. I am on Truth. I am on Rumble. I am on. Oh, I said it. Oh, I should have said Roomba. Whoops, I said it right. That's the joke we always have. Anyway, anything else, Jerry, before we end the show tonight?
Nope, that's enough.
All right, guys. Well, I want you guys just to remember to keep safe out there, because things are getting crazy. And, you know, one thing I want to say they don't do is they don't talk about, because the news media hides it. And I could come up with quite a few things that have happened where people have actually protected other people out there that are carrying illegal guns. It's happening. It happened just the other day. And did you hear about that?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Yeah, apparently there was somebody with a gun. I can't remember if it was in might have not a school. Maybe it was a school. But anyway, somebody saw them grab a gun, and my understanding is somebody that was concealed carrying actually shot them and protected these people, and yet that wasn't put out there on the news. Why?
No, well, there was the lady. There was a guy that was shooting at a it was either a wedding or a graduation.
That's a different one
like
then. Yeah.
And a lady who was concealed carrying shot the guy and killed him.
Yeah. And this is a different one then. But anyway, that's going on out there, but the news media doesn't want to report that, because I always say they want to report on the negative, and they want to report for some reason on the side of the Democrats. It's really crazy what they do, because they get more people watching them that way, because people for some reason want to feed off negative. I talk about that. I'd rather feed off positive. I hang around positive people and good people. So does Jerry, because I know him very well. Trust me. So, all right, guys, as always, I want to thank our law enforcement for everything you guys do out there. All the way down to Texas. Obviously, there was a mess up in Texas. We saw it. We heard about it. We're going to hear more about it. That was a mistake. Although, you know, I do want to say the border agents, they were attacking the border agents. Guess who saved this? Guess what happened? It was a border agent went in there and shot this guy. You know that, Jerry, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So next time you talk bad about border agents, think about that, you radical left. So also want to thank our military for everything you guys do. Also want to thank our farmers, our truck drivers, and I do want to thank all the people out there that are working, collecting a paycheck. All right. So as always, God bless you. God bless everyone out there, and God bless America, and have a great day. Take care.